administration, they used about 20 acres and had a fence that had been there since 1910 when their family took over.
That was from earlier today at a disastrous cabinet meeting that Donald Trump held. You can see he was falling asleep. It almost looked like he was drooling on himself. And that's not the first time we've seen Donald Trump like that. Repeatedly, he's been falling asleep at public events. We saw over the weekend at Pope Francis's funeral, Donald Trump looked disheveled. He was falling asleep there. And we've repeatedly reported on Donald Trump doing that over and over again. And then this evening, Donald Trump gave this bizarre, odd, disastrous interview with NewsNation where he confused Harvard with Harlem. He was asked a question by Stephen A. Smith, the sports commentator who I guess is on NewsNation. And Stephen A. Smith asked Donald Trump about his attacks on Harvard. Trump responded by talking about Harlem. And Donald Trump says he gets a very high black vote. Play this clip.
Mr. President, thank you for your time. It's interesting that you brought up Harvard, because when people think about Harvard, what they're basically talking about is they're asking, what do you say to those who view your actions as an attack on academic freedom rather than a defense of fairness? What do you say to that?
Well, I say this, we had riots in Harlem, in Harlem, and frankly, if you look at what's gone on, and people from Harlem went up and they protested, Stephen, and they protested very strongly against Harvard. They happened to be on my side. You know, I got a very high black vote. You know that. Very, very high black vote. It was a very great compliment to me. I did criminal justice reform. I did opportunity zones for one of the greatest economic deals ever for the black and Hispanic community. I got tremendous. They agree with what I'm doing with respect to Harvard. Harvard gets 4 or 5.
So I think it's important that we talk about Donald Trump's accelerating cognitive decline. We all see it. I know the corporate news doesn't want to report on it. I know they want to talk about former President Biden all of the time. We're seeing in front of us, though, Donald Trump's accelerating cognitive decline. Let me show you other clips from this interview on NewsNation that just wrapped up. Here, Donald Trump talks about doing these trade deals with countries, and they're calling morning, noon, and night, he says, to make a deal. Here, watch this clip right here.
I can explain it, but I can tell you that right now we have over 100 countries that are calling us like morning, noon, and night, dying to make a deal. We're in a great position of strength. We'll make great deals. And where we don't make deals, Stephen, we're just going to set the deals. We'll say that country is going to pay a 20% tariff. That country is going to pay 15%. Another one's going to pay 30 or 40% because we have a big, deficit with a certain country. They're going to pay 30, 40, 50, 60%. So we'll just set those deals. I could set those deals tomorrow and do away with negotiating, but we're negotiating with South Korea. We're negotiating with Japan. We're negotiating with a lot of different, many. India is a very big, they want to make a deal so badly. Okay. I'm not telling anything out of school. We're going to make great deals for America instead of bad. Well, and if I didn't take...
And look, we know from Donald Trump's top trade representative, Greer, that they're not even having any conversations with China. Zero, none. Donald Trump makes up that he has conversations with Xi Jinping that are not happening and that there are all these high-level conversations with China taking place. Just watch what Donald Trump's own trade representative said earlier today. Play this clip.
Leaders level with the president, the prime minister, but we stand ready to engage.
Last thing, for the people who look at this policy and say this is designed to put pressure on China, it's all designed to kind of put the squeeze on China. Is that a fair assessment? Are you trying to get China to the table in a weakened negotiating state because that's the biggest adversary?
I think that's a very Washington thing to think.
Look at it?
I think it is. But, for me, we're worried about the United States of America. We have this giant trade deficit. We have offshore manufacturing. Our ag exports are way down. And it's affecting normal people in the country. We want them to have jobs. We want them to have opportunities. Obviously, China is a huge part of this, and we want to make sure that we have fair trade with China.
And they're not official talks yet, right?
Not yet. I did speak with my counterpart before April 2nd for a long time, over an hour. It was a virtual meeting, but I thought it was constructive. This is not a plan just to encircle China. It's a plan to fix the American economy, to have a greater share of manufacturing as GDP, to have real wages go up, to be producing things instead of having a economy that's financed by the government. We want to make real stuff and sell it. And it means we have to deal with foreign trade practices that are harmful, including in China and elsewhere.
So for the companies.
And then earlier today as well, Donald Trump talked about how when he looks up at the sky, he sees drones now, and he used to see the moon, and now he sees drones, and seeing the drones are very scary or something like that. Here, play this clip.
On display next to me is their 125-pound Roadrunner drone. Where is that little sucker? Where is it? Which is that? Well, whoa, that's a nasty-looking thing. That's that nasty. I look up there when I'm having dinner outside. I used to look up and see the moon. Isn't it beautiful? Now you see the moon, but you see drones all over the place. And I say, let's get the hell out of here. That's a good one, isn't it, huh? I can see it. CEO.
Then Donald Trump brags on NewsNation about how China is sending its boats back and how the boats are not being unloaded in our ports. And Donald Trump says this is a great thing for America, that we're not getting our products. Here, play this clip.
Now China is sending its boats back. The boats are not being unloaded because they have a 145% tariff, which is, a record-setting type tariff. And they can't sell their product here. And because of that, think of it. If you're losing all of that money, maybe you're better off not doing business with them. But I took $5 billion a day and cut it way, way down, way, way back. And I did that within a very short period of time.
And do you see the hosts right there? Chris Cuomo, Bill O'Reilly, Stephen A. Smith. Do you even see their faces? Like, they don't want to point out the obvious. Like, are you okay? You seem very unwell. Like, does nobody want to talk about this other than the MeidasTouch network? But here Donald Trump talks about China again and bragging how they're not doing business here. Play this clip.
They were the king of ripping off the United States. Now they're not doing any business here because I don't want them to do business. So I set a high tariff. I don't want them to do business. Now, will we make a deal? There's a very good chance we're going to make a deal, but we're going to make it on our terms.
Okay. Mr. President,
it's got to be fair.
Mr. President.
Bill O'Reilly tries to warn Donald Trump if the destruction of the economy continues, Democrats are going to win in the House and take over the House and Senate. Play this clip.
Look, it's got to stabilize by this time, fall. Because remember, if it doesn't stabilize this time next year, Democrats may win the midterms. So there is risk here, big risk.
That's true. It is true. And I just think that I'll be able to convince people how good this is. This is what other countries have done to us. We've been the laughing stock and the whipping post. We've been ripped off by every country practically in the world.
I mean, isn't it just interesting too how like they're just giving what political advice to Donald Trump and like talking to him like a baby also. No offense to babies because they're far more mature than Donald Trump. But isn't it weird that you have like Bill O'Reilly telling Donald Trump, here's what you need to do, Donald. It's very strange to watch. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's White House has now created a website that looks just like Drudge Report to try to cover up the real headlines. So they made a fake Drudge Report website. It says the most successful first 100 days in presidential history. That's where they're going with this, that they're just going to make up a fake Drudge website at this time. I mean, earlier today, Donald Trump lies and says that groceries are down and that gasoline is selling for $1.98. Like none of this is true. Like this is all made up. And I understand Donald Trump is a liar. Everything he says is a lie. But as you watch this, I don't know how you can't come to the conclusion also that he's in cognitive decline. Here, play this clip.
Are down. The grocery prices are down. Gasoline prices are down. We had some gasoline selling for $1.98 a gallon just recently in 3 different states over the last 2 days. It was at $4 and it was higher than that in some places. It was over $5. We have it way down. Energy prices are down all over the country.
Here at that cabinet meeting where Donald Trump was falling in and out of sleep, Donald Trump brags about doing the biggest deals ever. And if you sold IBM, Exxon, and 5 other companies, they wouldn't be as big as this. What are you even talking about? We're the United States of America. Of course, the United States of America is going to make deals that are bigger than IBM and Exxon. Where does he understand what the United States of a serious question? Does Donald Trump understand even what the United States of America is? Play this clip.
In the history of the in history. This is the biggest deal ever done. If you sold IBM, ExxonMobil, and 5 other companies together, it's peanuts compared to what we're doing. This is the biggest deal ever done financially in the history of the world. And I think we're doing great. You're going to see some big results. Go ahead.
And so here's where I ask Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries about Donald Trump's cognitive abilities, and if it's a fair question to ask. Here, watch this clip.
Donald Trump spent the last year and a half questioning the cognitive ability of President Joe Biden, notwithstanding many of the legislative accomplishments that Donald Trump could only wish he got over the finish line. And so I think it's fair that a lot of Americans across the country that I run into are questioning whether Donald Trump is actually fit at this point to be able to carry out the duties of the United States of America in terms of being the president and the commander in chief.
And then, of course, Fox didn't like that question. So they asked Democratic Congressmember Dan Goldman when he went on Fox. Here, watch this.
The absurdity of the minority leader's statement questioning the competency of Donald Trump is beyond debate. It is absurd after years of refusing to acknowledge the truth when it comes to Joe Biden and seemingly manufacturing a truth when it comes to Donald Trump. I hope that's where we can agree and then move to more substantive debate.
Well, look, Will, I don't know whether it's incompetence, cognitive abilities, ignorance, or just plain flat out lying. But Donald Trump doesn't know that a photo he's showing is photoshopped. He doesn't know that the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against him. He's got Elon Musk in the Oval Office doing press conferences. He doesn't understand what trade deficits are and is tanking our economy. So you can call it whatever you want, but it's been a pretty disastrous first 100 days.
So you could judge for yourself, but I think when you watch these clips, it should be obvious to you, and obvious to anybody watching it, that there are real red flags there about Donald Trump's cognitive ability. The question was about Harvard. Donald Trump talked about Harlem and the fact that black voters like him, which they don't, by the way. Right now, Donald Trump's support amongst black voters is about 14%. His approval rating is 14%. And so I know the media wants to spend all this time talking about former President Biden, this. I interviewed former President Biden. I was in the room with former President Biden for 30 minutes for an interview. He answered all of my questions. Go read the transcript of any interview with former President Biden. Was former President Biden old? Of course he was old. Was he as quick as he was when he was younger? No. But he had a very thoughtful response to things, and our GDP was growing faster than other countries in the world. Our stock market was setting records. We had record low unemployment. He created 16.2 million jobs, and he surrounded himself with a smart, competent team as well and showed actual leadership. I don't even know what this is. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. Thank you for watching. I think it's an important issue to bring up.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.